Hey there guys, this is Joey and I am going to talk to you about my week with Dagaz. I had a very interesting week with Dagaz, and I'm going to start off by saying I felt that my experience started off feeling very different from what everybody else seemed to be posting, and it was only when I saw what Dawn posted in runes101 that I felt better about what I was experiencing, and I felt more in tune, and I started to think and allow the messages that were coming to come through fully. And although I had documented them, I then allowed myself to listen to myself instead of worrying that a lot of people seem to be only focusing on a very positive, fluffy message, and mine wasn't like that. And it was positive and negative, and I'm going to discuss it at length. But I want to start this video by saying thank you to Dawn, because I think she turned the tide of this, and a lot of people started considering and mentioning a very different standpoint than they did at the beginning of the week, and I think she's inspired a lot of people, and I want to give her props for that because I think it's her that's done it. And it's fantastic. I mean, she was offering insights which no one else was, and I was, up to that point, I was quite worried that maybe I was having a weird experience, and when she mentioned some of the stuff she mentioned, it really, really did help. So thank you so much to Dawn for sharing an enlightened and different perspective, and that's what learning from other people is all about, isn't it? That's fantastic. So that is really, really great. Okay, so I'm going to read to you some bits from my journal. Some bits I'm not, because obviously there are personal bits and pieces, and I will explain why Dagaz is not all alone in the shot. So on the first day, I did admittedly feel more positive and lighter, and sort of a sense of relief. I got a bowl full of dog rose petals and gathered some other herbs and bits and pieces, and had quite a sort of airy fairy light day. That night I had dreamt that I was in a forest full of light, where the light was illuminating everything and coming through the trees and through the branches, and I was surrounded by fallen branches on the floor. Some of them already seemed quite cleaned up and stripped, and I remember thinking in the dream how perfect they were for wand making. Remember the dream. That same day I took 3 journeys to different places. One was to go get some crystals for Midsummer, one was food shopping, and I can't remember where the third place was, but we went out 3 times. Every single trip I saw 2 crows. The first crow would be a crow in low flight, so low in flight that I could make out the feathers along its wings, and like how they differentiated, and like if there were gaps in the feathers and things. The second crow that I saw was dead at the side of the road, and I saw this 3 times. I wrote down at the time the balance, which I'm going to go into in a bit more. That same day, the lady who it's Noir Raven, in case you don't want your main name said, shared a beautiful poem about Bran, who is one of the male counterparts or aspects of the Morrigan, described as the light bringer to the void. I'm going to discuss that a bit more in a minute. The second day, energy was all over the place. Up, then down. I was in one of those moods, and I get them anyway, but when you're climbing the walls and you can't focus on anything for very long, and you're very bored, but you can't focus and do anything for very long. There's some negativity midweek, which I won't go into. Okay. And then I started thinking about what this rune was trying to show me. I originally saw life and death as a result of this rune. There is nothing terrifying in there, it simply is the balance and the cycle. One cannot exist without the other. Light cannot exist without dark. Positivity cannot exist without negativity. Illuminating information has come to my attention. I realised my distaste for anyone or anything pretending to be solely positive or solely negative. This is why I have distaste for the idea that a god or a goddess is light or dark, or a person is light or dark. The pretense is fraud, as far as I'm concerned. And the daily cycle. Life can be lost in a day. Value it. And I think that was part of the message of the crows, of one alive in flight and one dead. And Dagaz has that time tied into it, of a cycle. So you can lose a life in a day, and dawn may not come tomorrow, as we so often tell ourselves. So value every minute. My sister follows the north path, and has done 10 years, maybe more. I remember buying her a book about Nordic myth when she was 13. That's more than 10 years ago. And I talked to her about Nordic paths and things. And I felt very out of sorts towards the start of the week, because I didn't feel right connecting to energies of Nordic path when I am so devoted to my Celtic path. In essence, I do believe that all deity ties in and comes from the same place, but I follow the goddess Morrigan to a fault, maybe. And she's my goddess, and the Celtic path is my way, and my understanding. This is why I initially thought that I had maybe a different perspective on the rune, because I follow a goddess who is so much about the balance of light and dark, and life and death, and you know that you can lose your life in a day, and in a day everything can change. So I didn't feel right following the books and connecting to Nordic energies. Whilst I honour them and respect them, and maybe it's different for people who aren't dedicated to certain paths, and maybe it's different for people who aren't dedicated to the Morrigan, who is a particularly strong-willed aspect. I didn't feel right connecting to it this week like that. I didn't feel right suddenly engaging with different gods and goddesses. My entire life I didn't engage with a god or a goddess in the specific form until the Morrigan. And for me personally, the Celtic path is all there is going to be, because that's how I walk my path. It's not the same for everybody, admittedly, but that is how I feel comfortable. Dagaz brought forth to me information about Bran, Lightbringer, Magician and Crow, all energies which are tied in with Dagaz. More importantly for me, he is a male counterpart of the Morrigan, the sage aspect, and therefore tied directly to my experience of divinity, not someone else's. Although I believe essentially all aspects of divinity come from the same place, I also honour my path, the Celtic tradition to which I am dedicated. Therefore I honour the energies of Dagaz through my own pantheon. I do not wish to disrespect my goddess by suddenly ignoring her for the energies of someone else. I am happy to learn and to honour different aspects of divinity and anybody who works with them. But as far as I'm concerned, having a working relationship with any deity requires time and devotion, more than the time of a day. Dagaz is about daily cycles and how much time things require, and I don't think I have enough time in a week to look into the energies of one god or goddess. Whilst I find all the information incredibly interesting, I want to respect my goddess. Day 6. No, that can't be day 6. No, it's day 5. Day 5. The light energy of Dagaz has definitely helped me with summer solstice crafting. A good energy to craft and channel. I've been thinking about Dawn's comments about the balance, about how light can blind us and induce migraines, that we become too dazzled and we cannot see. I suffer from migraines personally, and I understand all too well what happens when we are blinded by one side of things, and when we induce inner pain in ourselves by focusing too much on one thing, light in this case. People seem to think that light doesn't have a negative aspect, and Dawn brought it to the attention of the group that it does. All things have a positive and a negative. I was channeling balance yesterday, and today I'm channeling enough spark. And how my creative process is my fizzle, is my light and dark in manifestation. Okay, final day. Weather sunny at last, yesterday evening and so far today. The positivity of light after gloom for certain. Showing that if you focus too much on the absence of light, you can become gloomy and depressed within yourself. Second shout out. Today me and others, particularly Bella Strager, have been feeling the imbalance in the world. The need to address people's selfish me attitudes. The world this week has in fact had an absence of light. Storms, destructions have been prominent themes. Ignoring these goings on whilst discovering Dagaz energies is to ignore half the lesson. To maintain the balance, we must look outward, stop the selfishness, and help redress the balance in nature. I started this week... I'm going to move on from that, so we'll discuss that for a second. The world very much around us has not been light and fluffy this week. There has been storms, there has been damage, there has been destruction. Bella Strager and I had pretty much the same thought. I was writing out a message this morning about how I felt this morning, and she actually shared a group and an action to try and help redress this balance that's being destroyed a little bit. So if you haven't checked out Bella Strager on Facebook, go check her out, and on YouTube. So the world around us isn't, you know, all light. It's not all positive change going on. And what it basically reminds me of is the idea of the quote that when good people do nothing, negativity endures, evil endures. So I'm going to discuss, oh, by the way, the feathers around there for Bran. I don't know if I mentioned that. Okay. I had visualizations of Bran this week. A man with feathers over his one side of his face. He's a sage, he's a magician, he's tied into the inspiration and the higher learning of spirituality of Dagaz. So I'm going to read to you about the wand now, which is in shot. I started this week dreaming of a wand, which I've told you already. A Hawthorne wand appeared outside my front door. I made a video about it and it's sat there. It's stripped but not decorated, and I'm actually quite excited to actually decorate it for summer solstice, which is a summer solstice ideal thing to do. Its meanings are protection from storm damage, considering what's been going on in the world this week. And it ties the Hawthorne, Thurisaz, into Dagaz, and Hawthorne is steeped in Celtic lore, to which I have already expressed how devoted I am. It is a sign of fertility and death, which I've already expressed in what happened with the crows. The knowledge of reproduction and transformation, which is one of the lessons of Dagaz. Both of these processes take time. The Hawthorne month in the Celtic calendar, pronounced Ho'l, I hope I'm saying that right, that's how it said so, is associated with masculine and fire energy, the same as Dagaz. The Ho'l is from May 13th to June 9th, and I literally found the Hawthorne branch just as this had ended. The Magic Oracle states that Hawthorne is indicates a time of restraint, keeping to oneself, to watch and wait and see. These connections come through the Celtic path, not the North path, because I don't follow the North path as much as I respect those who do. My own sister does. The final thought I had was the illusion of time. The dawn will always come as an illusion of control that we as human beings say to make ourselves feel better. The earth could technically blow up tomorrow, and therefore each day, each daily cycle is a gift. So as I said, my experiences with Dagaz weren't perhaps as I don't know even know how to put it. I thought they felt a bit darker than some people's what some people were saying, and initially I felt bad. I thought, am I being negative about this experience and missing the point? And as I meditated on it, as I realised all of the things that had come to pass, all the signs, all the imagery, and the crows and Bran and the Hawthorne and all of that, I realised it was just tied into my way of experiencing the world around me and the energies. I realised that I cannot rely on somebody else's ideas for my understanding. I'm so far beyond that point. How people understand something is entirely up to them and where they are on their path, but this is how I, as a person, as a witch, understand it. I was so keyed into the idea of balance midweek, and it was almost irritating me until Dawn mentioned her perspective that there is a balance, there is a negative side of light, just as there is a negative side of dark, and a positive side of light, just as there is a positive side of dark. And for months I've been going on about the whole Morrigan gets called a dark goddess, and people associate... I don't call her a dark goddess at all. I don't agree with that interpretation. I believe she's both, just as everything is both. And the whole idea of dark has been put to a negative interpretation, which I can't stand. I got the, a lot of people have been going on about how Dagaz is pure and has no reverse, and some people think it does have a reverse, and I honestly think the reverse is this. I think everything has a balance of positive and negative, because one can't exist without the other. That would be the hourglass. And we have to remember what a negative idea of time is. I mean, you're wasting time. Time is ever moving and we can't go back, maybe. Or, negative things associated with wasting time. There are both positive and negative aspects of time, just as there are positive and negative aspects of this way round. So my experience of this rune has been interesting. It's not what I expected. A lot of people were like, oh, I'm so light, I'm so happy, and my experience was not that. And I am eternally grateful to Dawn, I really am, because up until that point everybody seemed to be focused on the positive aspects, and only when she said something did other people start to consider this. And I said to her then, and I'll say again to her now, I'm just so grateful that you came out and said it, because that's exactly what I was experiencing. And I was experiencing all of this through my own Celtic path as well, very, very strongly. I did last week have a vision of what I believed to be Thor, and I'm thinking now it might not have been. I'm thinking it may have been one of the other male aspects to do with tying to the Morrigan. She obviously has red hair in some of her forms. She has many, many forms. It could easily just have been the Morrigan in male form. Not even necessarily her consort. It might have been connecting to the energies of Thor, which is very, very possible, because my sister's patron god is Thor, and me and my sister have psychic bonds as well as blood bonds and family bonds and all the rest of it. I can contact my sister through feeling. I don't know how it happens with other people, but if I'm stressed out beyond the point of comprehension, she will phone me, and the same is true of the reverse, without being asked. So it might be through my connection to her that happened with Thor, and why it did not happen this week, and why I felt uncomfortable with it this week, and why I had to realise that my own experience had to be my path rather than what is out there already. I don't want to offend anybody by this. I just thought now this might annoy people who are learning from the books. That's not my intention. But I have to be honest about how I am experiencing things and my path. And I think this might help other people who walk very specific paths and might be having difficulty connecting to the runes. And it makes me wonder if in the past this is why I've had trouble connecting to the runes, because I was going in about it the wrong way. Only when I am secure in my path and the way I celebrate deity and god and goddess can I then take in the energies of runes in my own way. I'm going to finish by saying at no point is this a dishonour to the Nordic gods. I honour those who follow the Nordic path. My own sister follows the Nordic path. I have a great deal of respect for the Nordic path and their ways. And I've met a few people recently who practice heathen paths and things, and I think they have an incredible insight, and there is an incredible amount of interesting information and lore out there that I'm fascinated to learn about. And I've shared that with my sister because I think she would find some of these people incredibly useful and a unique perspective. But that perspective is theirs, their understanding, their path, their way of walking. And I want to fully confirm the idea in my mind that everybody has their own way of understanding things, their own path to walk, and therefore, because I am so devoted to my Celtic learning, my Celtic goddess, that's how I have to experience these things, because otherwise I won't connect to the energies. So I've learned that this week, which was basically the spiritual illumination that Dagaz stands for, as far as I'm concerned. So I hope that was informational, and I realise it's a balance of positive and negative things within my video, which is exactly the experience that I had. Many blessings to all.